Jill Soloway's work includes the feature film Afternoon Delight, theatrical experiences such as the Miss Vagina pageant, Hollywood Hell House, and Sit and Spin, and of course she's the creator of the multiple Golden Globe and Emmy Award-winning Amazon series Transparent, which is premiering episodes from season 3 here today at TIFF in the primetime program. Please join me in welcoming one of the most provocative, contemporary, and fearless voices in film and TV. She's here to incite a revolution, Jill Soloway.
Thanks, guys. Thank you for being here at 9:30. Everybody was partying late last night. Never too early for the revolution, I like to say. And I want to thank TIFF for being such warm and welcoming hosts for Transparent Season 3, which hopefully you guys will come and check out in a few hours. Okay, so I am here to talk about, or maybe investigate, this notion of the female gaze. And I hope you read the title up there, and you know that it's G-A-Z-E and not G-A-Y-S. I've gotten into trouble when I talk about the male gaze, and gay men think I'm talking about them, and I have nothing against male G-A-Y-S. I mean, I don't like white parties, so that is one thing I have against them, but I don't like being told what to wear to events, and if I am being told what to wear, I hate when I'm told to wear white, so. Okay, so let's talk about what the male gaze is, the G-A-Z-E. It is a term that was coined by Laura Mulvey in 1975 in her essay, Narrative Cinema and Visual Pleasure. Click. Now, I don't have any slides, but I want them so badly. Doesn't it feel like I would just... But I'm going to make slides. I think this is going to turn into a slide thing one day. Okay, so I did some extensive research for 1 minute on Wikipedia and found that the male gaze is the way in which visual arts and literature depict the world and women from a masculine point of view, presenting women as objects of male pleasure. And so Mulvey names 3 parts of this gaze. She says this gaze is concocted by the person behind the camera, the characters in the film, and the spectator. That was like when I did this 1 minute of research and I realized that the male gaze was a triangle, I was just like, ugh. Ugh. It's coming out from the center of a triangle. Ugh. I just thought it was a gaze, but it's like an energy shooting out from 3 points. And I was like, no wonder I hate it. It's a lot. And here's what is also crazy about the male gaze. It was 40 years ago that Laura Mulvey coined that term, and nobody has taken the female gaze yet. So I'm just taking it now. I'm going to, like, Mulvey, male gaze, Soloway, female gaze, done. Yes, it's mine. I've got the female gaze, it's mine. Okay, what is the male gaze, guys? It's pretty much everything. Everything you've ever seen. It's most TV shows. It's all movies. It's superhero and action movies. It's of course horror movies, and it's torture movies. It's movies that are intentionally objectifying women, like James Bond movies and Wolf of Wall Street. And it's also well-intentioned movies like Her or Ex Machina, Machina. These men who dream of women who ooze ether. It's The Revenant, it's There Will Be Blood, it's Ocean's 11 for the way they ignore women. It's Entourage, it's 2.5 Men. Did I say it's everything? It's pretty much everything. We're in church. Just wait, this is the setup. I'm going there. I end with a poem. I really do. There's a poem at the end of this. Okay, my favorite male gaze staple, just if you're trying to find evidence of it, was like, I grew up watching The Love Boat, so male gaze shot is like tits, bikini, bar, pina colada, pina colada. It's the waitress's tits. She walks to the table. She sets down the pina coladas, and scene begins. That I grew up on that, guys. Start with the tits, then the pina coladas, now the scene. Okay, I know what you guys are thinking. Are you thinking, Jill, is the female gaze simply the opposite of the male gaze? Great question. If it were the opposite of the male gaze, if taken literally, it would mean, I'm just going to redo that sentence that Laura Mulvey said, visual arts and literature depicting the world and men from a feminine point of view, presenting men as objects of female pleasure. That would be as if, like, Magic Mike was written by Stephanie Soderbergh. I remember that when they tried to sell us this, like, as female gaze, like, hey, guys, Playgirl. Yeah. Women were supposed to go to the store and get Playgirl, right? And just, like, open it up and look at the guy and just laying there all hairy in the center. Just like, hey, I'm hairy, I've got a soft penis. Here's your female gaze. We were like, Yeah, we don't want it, guys. And then they were like, hey, female gazers, go to Chippendales. And so then groups of women were going to Chippendales, and they were like hooting and giggling and laughing and hooting at the men. And then it wasn't until I set foot in a cis hetero strip club that I realized when men go to strip clubs, they do not hoot. They sit there sternly alone, or they show up in somewhat stern groups. If they do hoot, they are hooting at their friend who is at a bachelor party, but they don't hoot at the women. So yeah, that was like a version of the female gaze we were offered, like, ladies, here's your fireman calendar. Are you happy now? No, we are not happy now. I do not want my fireman calendar. Okay, another way that some people interpret the female gaze is to reverse the gender of the male protagonist. The placing of women into male roles in your typical dude movies. So like, hey, the hero in this movie is Angelina Jolie and she's wearing tight clothes. Female gaze. Like, no, that is not the female gaze. It's like, Sigourney Weaver, she has a very large gun. No, but she has a very large gun. We don't care. I don't like action movies. I don't want to watch an action movie. It's still the male gaze. Action movies are almost always somehow a product of male projection and fantasy. They're usually made by cis men, and so, you know. You guys know what cis means, cis man? Everybody. Does everybody here know what a cis male is? No. Okay, great. I'm going to define it. Okay, before I define cis men, I want to define one more word that we're talking about a lot this week, and the word is intersectionality. Does everybody know what intersectionality means? No, okay. Guys, this is exciting. This is an exciting time in this room and also for the live stream. I don't need to take credit for intersectionality. That was somebody else. But it's a word that describes how multiple forms of oppression are linked. Women, people of color, queer people, trans people, disabled people have all suffered under the being otherized by the cis male gaze. There's a big debate right now in intersectionality around privilege and white feminism. And there's some confusion as to whether intersectionality is asking white women to say, I'm speaking for all women, including women of color, or I can't speak for all women, including women of color. So I'm going to be mostly focusing on gender, which I feel that I can speak about, and I'm not going to be speaking about intersectionality because I still feel like I have a lot to learn in terms of what it is my place to say as a white person. So as you hear this talk, you're going to say, this is true for people of color also. Much of it is, some of it isn't. And I think as we begin to debate what intersectionality really means, it's my next speech, guys. Intersectionality. I will have you guys will see the next one, and I'm going to take care of that. Okay, South by Southwest, guys, I'm coming. I'm coming for you. I really am. Okay, so cis, people don't know what the word cis man means. Cis just means that you identify as the same gender you were assigned at birth. It's the opposite of trans. Trans people do not identify with the gender they were assigned at birth. The doctor pulls the baby out and goes, it's a girl. Trans people are like, not so fast. And cis people are like, yes, indeed. So that's what cis means. And truth be told, we do throw around the phrase cis males all the time. I hate having to otherize, but if anybody's getting otherized right now in my world, it is cis males. We use that to differentiate them from trans males. And yeah, we talk about cis males dominating the ranks of the DGA, or cis males making up the entire voting bodies of your various awards granting organizations. Oh, we go on and on about the cis males when there are none in the room. We have some cis males in the audience. Identify yourselves, cis males, I see you. Thank you. I know it's a dangerous room. Okay, so I don't think any of you guys were at my speech at Northwestern around 2014, where I actually attempted to call out the cis males in the audience. It did not go well. Do not try it if you find yourself in this situation. Before that speech, I had my therapist, who I call the great Ellen Silverstein. She had talked to me about this idea she had that like 5,000 years ago, cavemen saw women getting their periods and bleeding, and they bled in time with the moon, and they didn't die when they bled, and so prehistoric man thought that women were magic, and they got scared, and so they created language to just fuck with us. And there's this guy named Dr. Leonard Schlein who wrote a book called The Alphabet versus the Goddess, and he really talks about the written word, language, the written word as an invention of a technology that was meant to be specifically problematic to goddess culture. The alphabet, the words, the sentence structure engaged the left brain, prioritizing male thinking, and actually attempted to destroy goddess thinking and matriarchal culture. Okay, that's 5,000 years, guys. So that's a lot, and we're a film festival, so why don't we just talk about, filmmaking, okay, 100 years. Whether it's 5,000 years or 100 years, I started doing the math in my head and started feeling like if we're actually gonna really get to gender parity, not parity, parity, not only would women have to really just be making shit all the time and get their stuff funded all the time, but also cis males would have to stop. And that's what I said at Northwestern. It didn't go over well. I was like, cis men, where are you? Are you guys filmmakers? Okay, can you do me a favor? Can you just stop making things? Please, just step off. Just step the fuck back with your protagonism for, I don't know, 100 years. Give us a fucking break. I have laughter here, thank you. There are some females in the audience. It did not go well with these young cis males who had just gotten to Northwestern and were so excited to make their first films. Here came Jill Soloway saying, please don't, actually. And another problem with this asking cis males to stop, then you have to come up with, well, what are they going to do? And I know that if they were like, fine, we'll just go sunbathe in Central Park. And if I went to Central Park and saw all the cis males sunbathing, I'd be like, that is not fair. This did not turn out right for us. So that's gonna take some thinking also, what we want the cis males to do while we're asking them to stop. I have one small, tiny thing that makes calling out cis males better. If you put it together and you think about it sort of like in Italian, you can pronounce it chismales. Chismales. Rhymes with tamales, and it's cute, it's funny, we're laughing. It's like, hey, chismales, stop making things. It's funnier. It sounds like something you'd find in like a Portuguese wedding soup. Like, now with more chismales. So you could try that, calling the cis males chismales. You delicious, sweet chismales. I have nothing against you except for your gaze. Your male gaze. Okay, why would these chismales want to hold such a tight grip on the gaze? Okay, art is propaganda for the self. Transparent has been for me a way of making the world safe for my mappa. It has a mappa-like human at the center. It has unlikable Jewish people who become likable. when I surround them with good lighting and some funny lines and some deep music. Nobody's doing it on purpose. The chismales don't do it on purpose. I'm not doing it on purpose. We're just making art. It's unconscious. If I receive like a pilot in the mail, right, to read, and I open it up and it's about a lanky redhead with melancholy eyes, and she grew up in a home where her mother ran a daycare. What do you think the chances are that that was written by a black man? What do you think that the chances are? Zero. What do you think are the chances that when I finally meet the writer of the pilot about the lanky redhead with melancholy eyes who grew up in a home where her mother ran a daycare, that she actually is also a lanky redhead with melancholy eyes who grew up in a home where her mother ran a daycare? The chances are, believe it or not, 100%. 100%. Everybody's writing propaganda for themselves. All TV, all filmmaking, all culture making is people going, I'm okay. And people who are similar to me are okay. Please watch my half-hour television show and then be more on my side. In case of Armageddon or Zika or Trump or Hitler, we're making friends. We're making friends. Stand with me. Protagonism is propaganda. Protagonism is propaganda for privilege. Protagonism is propaganda that protects and perpetuates privilege. You would think I'm getting paid by the peas. You would think that TIFF called and said, Jill, can you do a master class? Please use a lot of peas. And I said, yes. Protagonism is propaganda that protects and perpetuates privilege. We will call those the 5 Ps from now on. So I want to offer those 5 Ps to women today. I'm here to inspire women to grab hold of the gaze. I know what you're thinking. Jill, fucking say it already. What is the female gaze? Okay, I'm going to. In 3 parts. Just like movies. I'm gonna shoot something out of the center of my triangle by the time I'm done here. You just watch. Okay, number 1. I think the female gaze might be a way of feeling seeing. Okay, so it could be thought of as a subjective camera, one that attempts to get inside the protagonist, particularly when, but not always, but particularly when the protagonist is not a chismale, a cis male. It uses the frame to share and evoke a feeling of being in feeling, rather than looking at the characters. So I take the camera, and I use it to say to my audience, I'm not just showing you this thing, I really want you to feel it with me. And I have my particular methods. Our cinematographer, Jim Frona, when he's holding the camera, his body is in feeling. He's not capturing, but he's actually playing an action like the actors. I'm whispering in his ear while he's shooting between takes. He's playing the action of melting, or oozing, or allowing. He's feeling something in his body that we have chosen together while he's holding the camera. And so you may notice when you see this kind of filmmaking that you feel more, or as the millennials would say, you get the feels. That's the way they talk, guys. Your show really gave me the feels. Thank you. Okay, so some examples of what this feeling seeing would be might be Transparent or I Love Dick, my new television pogrom, as I call them. And take a little sip here. Please stand by. Got a little Toronto sore throat. The partying, guys, film festivals. So this first female gaze might be something that you watch where you say, I can tell a woman directed this because I feel held by something that is invested in my feeling, in my body, that my emotions are being prioritized over the actions. And as a director, I help this also by trying to stay in my body when I'm shooting. I stand on the set and my intention is to be in my body. I've watched some male directors who stand at the monitor and they stand there like they're watching a sports game, and when the line is said right, they go, yeah! They just like punch the air, did it! So we try to just be in our bodies on the set so that we can use our bodies as tools, prioritize our bodies over equipment, over the schedule, over time, over money, over the lights. Just prioritize our feeling bodies. And to that end, I read this written by Hannah Wilke, and she wrote this in 1976 about her art making, but I felt like this really described this feeling seeing. She said, "I am concerned with the creation of a formal imagery that is specifically female, a language that fuses mind and body into erotic objects that are nameable and at the same time quite abstract. The content is always related to my own body and my feelings, reflecting pleasure as well as pain, the ambiguity and complexity of emotions, human gestures, multi-layered metaphysical symbols below the gut level translated into an art close to laughter." The Female Gaze, Part 1, reclaiming the body, using it as a tool on the set with the intention to communicate a feeling seeing. Part 2. I also think the female gaze uses the camera to take on the very nuanced and occasionally impossible task of showing us how it feels to be the object of the gaze. So the camera then talks out at you from its position as the receiver of the gaze. It is actually repping the gazed gaze. It says, this is how it feels to be seen. I think Andrea Arnold's Fish Tank did that. Yes. Eliza Hittman's, Eliza Hittman's It Felt Like Love felt that. She was being seen. I even actually think Kenny Lonergan's Margaret was this. Again, the female gaze can be made by anyone. These films use a kind of heroine's journey structure, a looping around inside of the body. So it's not just about a feeling, but it's also a story shape where we reveal an ever more intense awareness of the protagonist's growing power. And I actually noticed, King of Comedy is a heroine's journey, where the gaze is, Jerry Lewis. Rupert Pupkin is engaged in his ever more awareness of how it feels to be engaging the gaze. But in these other three cases I talked about, Andrea Arnold and Margaret and Eliza Hittman, we're specifically giving these coming-of-age tales for women who talk about how they become what men see. It's about what I'm doing to the world, my effect when I am seen. It is the gazed gaze. I think of it as part 2. So part 3 is what I like to call returning the gaze. And this is a very daring thing, returning the gaze, and daring to say, I see you seeing me. Not just I feel see, not just this is how it feels to be seen, but now I see you seeing me. And it's about how it feels to stand here in this world having been seen our entire lives. Or a line I heard yesterday in a web video, we don't write culture, we're written by it. It says, we see you seeing us, and it says, I don't want to be the object any longer. I would like to be the subject, and with that subjectivity, I can actually name you as the object. It's not like a sexy calendar, it's not a gender reversal, it's the third leg of the triangle, and it's like entirely, barely not even done yet. It's less about a filmic language, although it could easily employ either of the techniques I just mentioned, the feeling camera, the heroine's journey story, but rather this part of the female gaze is a socio-political, justice-demanding way of art making. Roger Ebert said, film is an empathy machine, and this is true of television and all story. Like keynotes and speeches and this is not an empathy machine. Some people will hate me after this. Some might like me, probably not that many people are gonna see it. Keynotes are not empathy machines, but story and film and television. These are empathy machines. And I actually prefer to hide behind the stories of my characters. This was so nerve-wracking for me to be thinking about saying these things to this room. Even though probably not a lot of people are gonna see it, I'm always thinking that I'm sort of too much. And then I have to put it in perspective, right? I think about Transparent, which is a queer TV show, And yeah, I often feel like it's too much, and I'm too much. And then I think about Giancarlo Stanton. Anybody know who he is? He's a Miami Marlin. I don't even know what they are. I thought they were Florida Marlins. Did this change? He recently got a $325 million contract for like 3 years. So all of Transparent that we've shot, the 3 years of all of Transparent, and maybe everything that Transparent would ever be, could exist inside of this one Miami Marlins salary. One Marlin. All of this, I'm way too much. I'm changing the world. Really? Like one Marlin, like the foot of one baseball player. And there are 30 baseball teams and at least 25 guys on each team. So just take these salaries and expand them exponentially, you know? Men watching men do things that men like to watch men do. Baseball, basketball, football, golf. And there's a whole section about it in the newspaper every day. Every day. And men are so lucky that they get to watch the thing they like to do, which is watching other men do things. I wish I could watch the thing I love every weekend. I love feminist arguing. I do. I want to watch feminist arguing about intersectionality in my underwear, in my living room, and all my family has to watch it with me. Kids come in, what are we doing? Mom's watching feminist arguing. It's happening in a stadium, on TV, and there's thousands of people in the stadium, and millions of people watching Lena Dunham and Roxane Gay, like go at each other about intersectionality and feminism. Guys, this would be a Sunday for me. I would fucking love that. And then you know what else men do with sports? I'm just gonna quickly, besides watching sports all weekend long, do you know that for most men, if you go up to their computer at work, behind their work, they're also involved in a Excel Google Doc where they're playing fantasy football? Can you imagine like fantasy feminists arguing? That is what I'm doing, but also while I'm working, I'm also betting on whether or not Roxane Gay is gonna explode in Twitter next week, or, you know, I would love this actually. I would love to just be placing bets on people getting in trouble on the internet. Okay, so it would be so fun, right? Like fantasy teams, like I'm gonna make a team of the Jewesses, and here's Emily Nussbaum and Gloria Allred, and you make your fantasy team, whatever. Guys, again, another keynote. I'm gonna make some of those cards, some baseball cards for trading. Okay, that would be great, right? We could sell those. So the female gaze is not a camera trick. It is a privilege generator. It's storytelling to get you on somebody's side. It says, you will be on my side, my camera, my script, my words. And what I want people to see is the female gaze is a conscious effort to create empathy as a political tool. It is a wresting away, maybe even a wrestling away of the point of view, of changing the way the world feels for women when they move their bodies through the world. We're back to the body, feeling themselves as the subject. Women, ladies, girls, gender nonconforming people. And sometimes the first gasp of this awareness when you realize how much you haven't been able to be in your body because you have been the object of the gaze your whole life is a sort of paralysis. It's like this kind of silent rage when you realize what an overwhelming amount of cis male artists have been telling their stories that work like propaganda to teach us how to behave. We have to behave to have access to their attention and their money and their privilege, and that behavior stops us from gathering our own attention to ourselves. I wish I could put into feeling what it felt like to be 11 years old or 10 years old and to be sitting in a room and looking at all of the presidents, right? And being like, he was the first one, he was a president, he was man. All of them, men. And to be sort of coming into my own female body and have this feeling of, oh, I want to be president. And then to walk home singing along to Rod Stewart, who was my favorite at the time. And just kind of like not knowing why, but singing along the words to Tonight's the Night, you know, like, don't say a word, my virgin child. Just let, you guys know those words, the inhibitions run wild. The secret is about to unfold. Upstairs before the night's too old. What was he doing? What was I doing singing along? Was I Rod Stewart? Was I the virgin child? It didn't matter. It was like, here was like a pedophile grooming a culture to encourage underage girls to go upstairs before the night's too old. And nobody said anything. And my presidential power dreams got lost throughout all of my adolescence. I had to do these extreme high jumps over songs like that. I mean, it was like being suggested that I think of myself as Sister Goldenhair Sublime or Sugar Magnolia or that I should be the lady in red, you know, or that my body is a wonderland. And I said, you look wonderful tonight. I can't even listen to the radio, guys. I listen to songs from like the 70s and 80s, which are just kind of men grooming us to want to be the person who looks wonderful tonight. I can't even. It's a political platform, the female gaze. It's wanting to call out how awful it has been to be offered access for succeeding at being seen. Thank you. Yes, it's awful. And the female gaze also wants to call out how the male gaze divides us. So there's this thing I call the divided feminine. And once you start to notice it, you see it everywhere. Men divide us for their storylines. They divide us so they can tell stories about us to other men. So they call us the Madonna and the whore. They say the one I want to marry and the one I want to fuck. And the divided feminine does more than that. It doesn't just tell stories. It actually activates male lives. So the male subject holds this one object, the beautiful girl, that you look wonderful tonight, girl. She's up here, and she glows, right? And she gets songs written about her. And I get to think, if I'm a beautiful girl, I might get this song or this ring. I might get proposed to. The beautiful girls, they become honored mothers and wives. Or if they share blood with the male protagonist, they are honored daughters and sisters. So being held up here on this pedestal means we can earn safety if we are good enough. We earn access to privilege if we are good enough in men's eyes. These men will say, I love women. They'll say, I put them on a pedestal. That's meant to be a compliment. You look wonderful tonight. And these good women also get privacy. If a man has proposed to this woman, if she's wearing that big rock, she's off limits. His buddies can't talk about her. If she is sexual, she is only sexual in private with him. She shares his privilege, held aloft, safe, the divided feminine. And if you're not up here, you're over here. You're on this side. And on this side, these are the sluts and the hookers and the strangers walking down the street, where he elbows his buddy and goes, we can talk shit about her. She's nobody's. She's ours. She wants it. She wants it. So this male gaze I'm talking about shames our desire. It names which desire is okay with them as different from a desire that is not. They divide us because they use us as objects to call them into. This girl here, this slut, she calls men into Congress with other men. They use her for conversations and locations where they are with other men. They are meant for sharing. What is porn if not an excuse for men to watch other men come? Right? The slut, she invites men into a dark room where now they all know something that is kept from the good women. We're back at the binary. The good girls get proposed to. The bad girls die. They get in accidents. They get killed. And the drunk ones get what's coming to them. And the female gaze is a cultural critic. And we can use it to call out these fucking storylines and those procedurals that are meant to work as public service, meant to educate us about rape, but are actually just more rape. Thanks, guys, we get it. You can stop making stories about rape. We get it. As Bell Hooks said the other night at the New School, she said, I would like to go my entire life without ever having to see another rape scene in a movie as long as I live. Yes, never. Cis males, we will take care of the rape scenes. If we want to write them, we will write them. You can stop portraying our rapes for each other. Male protagonism, privilege, protection extends into the courtrooms, into the way the law understands our bodies. Transparent as a TV show invested in trans protagonism, and the culture shifted and the laws changed. What if only women were allowed to craft our own storylines about our bodies, about consent for the next 100 years? Could we change laws with our gaze as we write and direct and produce our own truths about the violence on our bodies? Yes, it's back to our bodies again. Creating from inside of our own bodies and generating our own gaze, we can start to ask the important questions. We can say the things that the dominant narratives have tried to distract us from, right? We are divided by this male gaze, but we want our subjectivity back. And we use our subjectivity to knit it back together with wholeness. And we make it uncomfortable to use us as objects. We don't want to be turned into slices that push men towards their own plot climaxes, their own rescues, their own revenges. We are not the Madonna or the whore, the Betty and Veronica, the Ginger, the Marianne. Sometimes we have to slice ourselves even smaller. Choose from 3, pick one. Are you Carrie? Are you Charlotte? Are you Miranda? Are you Samantha? They give us names. They call us Angelica, Eliza, and Peggy. And Peggy. What's wrong with Peggy? What'd she do wrong? Like Peggy's like Miranda. Angelica, the one I married. Eliza, the one I want to fuck. And Peggy. There's like 3 of us. And Peggy. The female gaze inspires a collective roar. We fill with power as we corroborate one another. We collaborate. We blatantly ask the obvious questions about the divided feminine. We call out from our muted and blindfolded, objectized humanity. We take our blindfolds off and we say what we see. How your cis male narratives obscure reality, like your news stories, like the way you tell your news stories. So it says right here in the newspaper that this guy called up his friend to come over and fuck his passed out girlfriend. And so as the audience, we're all supposed to be focused on passed out, right? So we're all going, she was passed out? Was she really passed out? How passed out is passed out? And so we're focused on this passed out part, and we never stop and ask this other question, which is, he called up his friend? A guy who wants to have sex with his friend in the room is probably gay, right? What? We're not supposed to be asking that question, right? Wanting your buddy there to have sex with your girlfriend while you're having sex with her, it's a pretty gay thing to do, right? Come on over, let's both get our dicks out. I mean, what's gang rape? Gang rape is men wanting to have sex in the same room, using this degraded half of the divided feminine so they don't have to name their own desire for each other. Projecting that onto her, the slut, drunken girl. We are being used. We are being used so they don't have to name their divide. It's her fault. Peggy. It's past that. She's an invitation to call your friends. We're not supposed to say what we see. We're supposed to stay divided. We're supposed to stay weak in our dividedness. I'm supposed to be keeping busy with that half of me that is arching towards approval, that diamond, that light-filled life preserver that will confer privilege on me. But I don't have privilege. I've been reaching for that life preserver since I was a little girl, to be that wonderful tonight girl. The female gaze is political protagonism, and it is not afraid to ask, what is toxic masculinity? And when are we going to be done with it? The female gaze is more than a camera or a shooting style. It is an empathy generator that says, I was there in that room. The female gaze is that letter that Brock Turner's victim wrote That case became famous because she was a beautiful writer. The female gaze says, I was there, and this is my shame, and this is my life, and this is my humor. I will take all of it, and I will put it into my protagonist, and I will light it, and I will add music, and we will side with her. So this is that jazzy poem part I was telling you about. The female gaze is a baby. She is blind and 1 day old. The female gaze got so mad that Toronto believed me when I said my topic was the female gaze. There really is no such thing yet. The female gaze seeks out and gathers evidence, buried gems. We find a movie, one person, one poem, and we say, oh yeah, that's it. The female gaze is the green stuff in the brain of a lobster. It is the organ meat and the liver and the pancreas, or that roe inside. It's the chains of red eggs knit together when you open up your lobster and everybody goes, ew. Because it has 1 million generations of lobster in it. And so it's so scary. It is bonobos who protect each other, even the ones they aren't related to. It is also the female gaze, G-A-Y-S, I have found from personal experience. Thank you. The female gaze is an absurdist, a bedbug, a ladybug, a speck against 5,000 years and 100 years. My female gaze was terrified to speak today. She wakes up in the middle of the night and she says, you're too much. And at the same instant, she's also saying, it's not enough. Simultaneously, the voice of the patriarchy borrows her voice so she can yell at me saying, stop, stop, stop making things. The female gaze seeks to destroy all gazes. She is other gaze, queer gaze, trans gaze, intersectional gaze. She is the non-gaze, emanating out from the center of not a triangle, but a circle, undivided. The feel with me gaze, the being seen gaze, I see you gaze, truth gaze. She is the internet. Because now we can all talk to each other all at once, collaborate, corroborate. And so we'll take the invention of this new technology and we'll call it problematic for the patriarchy. The female gaze is an invitation to the intersectionally aligned. It says, please leave my body whole, do not divide me. If on only this we can align, maybe the revolution can still happen, and maybe it can happen in our lifetimes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jill. That was so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know that we have a lot of filmmakers and creators in the audience, and I know that they're probably ready to join you in this, in this revolution.
Awesome.
So I'd like to open it up and hear from our delegates. Do you have any questions for Jill? Right in the front. Please do hold your question. We have volunteers who have microphones, and we want to make sure everyone hears what you have to say.
Hi. First of all,
Hi.
thank you. This is exactly what it's just brilliant, and this is a subject very close to my heart. I'm making a documentary called A Female Gaze, and I'm speaking with women filmmakers about this subject. I very much would like to talk to you, but my question...
Wait, so you want Mulvey, you want female gaze? You can have it. I feel bad. Let's collaborate. We can both have female gaze. I don't need it.
Well, you know, I mean, it's just you're speaking on so many levels about what happens when a woman is behind the camera and telling the story. And so I guess my question is, one thing that has come up when I've spoken with a couple of other women filmmakers is, can a man have a female gaze, someone like Ingmar Bergman, for example, and also a female gaze versus a feminist gaze?
Yeah. Yeah, I think female gaze is problematic as a word, and I think we only use it because male gaze has been said. But I think, yeah, it shouldn't be female. It can be other gaze, queer gaze, trans gaze. feminine gaze, feminist gaze. And I think, you know, what the most important thing I've probably learned working on Transparent is about essentialism, that we can't really say that there's anything that a male body confers or a female body confers, but we can talk about the feminine and the masculine. And the feminine allows for a certain something, and the masculine also works in a different way. And again, I find I think in a few years, the binary will be an incredibly problematic concept. So the female gaze may even be, you know, no gaze, no binary, no see and seer, but something that's more holistic, that holds everything at once.
Thank you. Right over here in the aisle. Can you pass that microphone back? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your work and for this fantastic, inspiring talk.
Thank you.
Thank you. So many people claim that we are in the kind of golden age of LGBT television. And I was wondering, first, do you agree with that argument? And second, I was thinking that Transparent is not exactly LGBT, but I would call it queer TV, because I think you're so focused on the fluidity of gender and gender as a spectrum. So I wonder if you can say something about this difference between making LGBT television or queer television. Where do you see your work?
Yeah, I think, well, I think they're probably pretty close. I think LGBT television might be a show that has gay characters on it. So it could be created by a cis male, and it could say, here's the funny gay neighbor, or here's the wacky lesbian sister. And so it still is objectifying and dividing and slicing these people into others, again, for the cis male storyline. So that could be the difference, that's what LGBT TV is. It encompasses people and shows that have gay characters, but that potentially queer television would be something that comes from queer filmmakers and queer auteurs. And there is no golden age of that yet. Again, like that needs to happen for 100 years. And then it needs to be 50-50. And then we can start talking about something being at a peak, you know, or being like too much or a lot. It's still just like, it's like this much. It's like, it's there. There is a golden age in that people are starting to work. And I look around at women that I want to hire and they're working. So that's really exciting. You know, as recently as 5 years ago, I would go on pitch meetings and I would be told, you need to have a rootable, white, you know, handsome man at the center of this story. And he needs to feel good. We need to feel good about him. Otherwise, we can't put this on television. That was 5 years ago. And then Amazon and Jeff Bezos, who completely, you know, upends and reinvents everything. And I just want to call out beautiful Joe Lewis, a chismale, a delightful chismale from Amazon who bought Transparent. Thank you, Joe. And I think you understand the female gaze in a bodily way, and Gina Kwan works at Amazon as well. And they are, yay Gina Kwan. And, you know, Gina Kwan, I first met at Sundance, and Ted Hope, who is doing movies, I met at Sundance. And here are people that, you know, we're using the word TV, but it couldn't be more different from CBS and NBC and ABC. These are people who come from the world of connecting with and recognizing and inspiring and being inspired by artists and finding a really amazing way to distribute that quickly and effectively. So TV, I don't know if that's even the right word. Yeah.
Do we have a question from this side? Yes, right over here in the aisle. Please just wait for a microphone.
Jill, first of all, thank you so much. My body right now is feeling shaken and inspired by everything that you said.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I am too. I'm just like, it's so emotional. These things I wanted to say and I was so afraid to say, so it's amazing to, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. So I just want to ask you, I might be misunderstanding, but what I think I hear you saying, the definition of a cis male is those of us born with a penis who identify as male.
Yes.
I'm wondering how you would feel about differentiating those of us who get it and those of us who are
I know, yes, it's
perpetuating.
so necessary. And I think the word allies isn't quite strong enough. Sometimes you might be called a woke cis male. But these words, woke cis male or allies, the more I experience the divided feminine and talk to men, I realize that they experience the divided masculine, meaning that you can't be a man and be for peace. So if you're a man and you say, I actually think nobody should kill anybody, there should be no war ever, your manhood is called into question. So this divide is placed on men too in the most grievous of ways, and I think their pain in that divide and being told what a man does is part of what has them project this stuff onto us, because men can't just be gay. Men can't just be attracted to other men. And I always look at porn, I'm like, we don't even watch the women come, we only watch the men come. How come nobody says that porn is men watching men come? It's like everybody's probably a little bit bi, and that's okay. And I think straight men are so afraid of that notion that you can't be both, that you can't be a man and strong and also not be willing to kill people in a war. And you can't, we're all being divided by this. So I do think there's a revolutionary, intersectional, forward-moving, feel-good brand about cis men, cis women, queer people, allies, and it has to do with love and peace, and I think we're gonna get there. It's not quite time yet because people are still saying, I need my own otheredness to be recognized, and I get that. But to me, it would be great to have a word that everybody could say, this is me.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. We have a question on this side here.
Thank you, Jill. I got a lot out of your talk. And
Thanks.
Being in the business a long time, speak to women uniting with other women, because I feel there's been such a divide. I've been in independent film, and I do feel the unity of women working together, and certainly people at Amazon working together, but I find working in other areas, women don't help women.
I hear this, women don't help other women. I don't really buy it. I think some people don't help some people, and people love the idea of women who are attacking each other. Look, if this is where the power is, being a cis man, and the way to have this power is to be adored by cis men, everybody's competing for access to this pedestal. Not just women, but people of color and queer people. And so the things that you will argue about, you're not, a woman can't stand next to a woman and say, let's collaborate, let's corroborate, because one is gonna have more access to this power. One is gonna be closer to the decision makers. So if you look at the boards of most companies, they're all men. And so everybody who is not a powerful white cis male corporate boss is performing for these people. The chairman of Viacom. People are performing in multiple ways, emanating out to just our day-to-day. What do I wear? What do I look like? Who do I agree with at the meeting? What shows do I pick up? We're performing for money, which is owned by men. So, yeah, women will quickly divide in story, and that's the divided feminine. You watch Real Housewives, which is one of my favorite shows, and every storyline is the divided feminine. It's like, we're the good girls, and we're having a bracelet party, and she's a slut and she's not invited. And here she comes, the slut's coming anyway, she's not invited, and now we're gonna have a fight. And this is the reason that they're having this fight is because it's a bracelet party. They're trying to make some money. And so they divide as a way to express their feelings of lack of access to the money and the males. And so, yeah, women do this too. They go, I'm a good girl, I'm a mom, and she's so the divided feminine, it affects everyone. And I just think the more people start to realize it, the less people will do it.
Thank Thank you. I know we have so many questions left and so little time.
South by. I'll see you guys at South by Southwest. We'll do it again.
We can do one final
With slides.
question.
I'm going to have slides next time I do this.
One final question. Do we have a microphone over here?
Thank you. So we still live in this world where, a few weeks ago, I heard from a producer that they're still hearing feedback that, it's hard to sell a female protagonist-driven story because women will watch men doing stuff, but men don't want to watch, which is total BS, of course. So it still feels like an uphill battle. So what's your advice to us filmmakers who want to change that, who are like hungry for the kind of story you're talking about?
So I believe that actually there is a lot of precedence that there is economic possibility in giving voice to otherized people. I'm so excited about Donald Glover's show, Atlanta. I'm so excited about Issa Rae's shows. I think that when people are speaking from this place of having been otherized their whole life, they're like exploding with protagonism, and I think the stories are better. And I think if you are a director or a producer, you're actually a politician. And I've found that I have to speak leadership, not once a year. I have to do it every fucking day. I have to do it every hour. I always think, oh, I'm done. People get it now. They don't. Just the way, if it's been 5,000 years, things are going to return to, oh, we like having a strong masculine at the center of this. And like, we just really want daddy to come home and tell us we're going to be okay. And I think this is part of why Trump is rising, is because, just bombastic daddy makes everybody feel safe. Like, well, we don't have to think because bombastic daddy has got this. So it's sort of about knowing what the product is, which is revolutionary, which is actually a financial boon to people, and being able to speak it and, never ever blaming people when you can't make it happen. I mean, I got this from what Cassavetes said. I was reading this Cassavetes book where he said, and he was just talking about being an artist, he said the job of the artist is to inspire the people with money to pay for the art. The people with the money never want to pay for the art. They are only there to make the money. There are very few artists. And so half the job, or most of the job, is making the art, and the other half of it is being a politician for your art and coming up with believable, positive, forward-thinking, money-making story around why your story matters. So I offer that to you.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jill, I just want to say thank you. You took us to church today,
Okay,
and
good.
it was amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.